But he gets all the girls as well. And people think it's the singer gets the girls. It's not. It's the drummers.
You heard it here. This is the Groove Guru podcast. My name is Windsor, and my guest today is Billy Doherty. And Billy's best known as the drummer with rock band The Undertones, a much beloved band who remain the most successful band from Derry and one of the most successful bands to have emerged from Northern Ireland. You've recorded 6 albums, released 20 singles and more with the band, and currently you're in the process of the Undertones' 45th anniversary tour. So, Billy, thanks for being here today and welcome to the Groove Guru podcast.
Well, thanks for the invite, Windsor. Maybe I should say to people that the reason that I got to know Windsor, and thankfully I got to know him, and he's a really, really nice guy, is because Windsor's the drummer with Hugh Cornwell, and Hugh Cornwell supported the Undertones on various dates, and I got to meet Windsor, and I think he's an unbelievable drummer, and I'm embarrassed every time that I come on stage after Windsor, because Windsor is a drummer.
I've got plenty of really cool things to thank you first of all, and I think I really admired yourself as a musician, and I've really enjoyed those shows that we've done together, and here's to doing some more if we can create that. And every time I see you with the guys, it's just you guys have the magic touch. The vibe that is there is wonderful, and I really love your playing, and I'd love we could chat about that.
You actually did, because when I was ill, this is going back a few weeks, I took ill in Malmo, and the guys did the show without me. But then Windsor came on, and he actually drummed for more songs about chocolate and cares, but he did it more like a Stuart Copeland style.
Yeah. It was very spontaneous. Like that was it. It's what came out, and it was fun. And then I remember, I think next morning in the hotel, Pat, Hugh's bass player, recorded a video from the side, right. and I showed it to you, and I was like, "That's what happened," and you were laughing about it.
Yeah. Well, the thing with the Undertones, the drumming, as you know, Windsor, it's very basic. It's very 1, 2, 3, 4, go, and just keep the beat and try and lock everyone in together. That's basically my job within the Undertones. There's not much room for expression, believe you me, because of the nature of the songs are very short and very fast. But you have to nail it every night. I mean, that is as you know yourself, Windsor. I mean, the band is only as good as the drummer. They may say the guitar player is great, or the bass player, or the singer, which is true, but ultimately it falls down to the drummer. I mean, he is kind of the captain of the on stage, for most definitely for live. He has to hold the whole thing together, and you do have to make minor adjustments as well, because some guys speed up, some guys speed down. Now you're talking like very marginal movements and speed, but you kind of have to. They use the word swing, and that's the best way to describe it. You got to swing with the band, and you got to make the band swing as well.
Yeah. Hey, don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing, as they say. Perfect. So amazing. So you grew up in Derry.
Yes.
So what was that like when growing up in Derry and getting started with the drums for you? How did that come about?
Well, the drums really came about because I lived in a place called Enniskillen. My parents moved from Derry to Enniskillen, and I went to a Christmas party in the local town hall, myself and my sister, and for whatever reason, my sister and I might have been maybe about 8 years old, maybe about 8. I think it might have been eight or 9. But anyway, we were at the very front of the group of kids, and they had like a folk group, and the drummer came out right beside me, just with a snare drum, and he brought this hanky and put the hanky on the drum, and because he was directly in my line of contact, I just was intrigued by this. And I thought, God, this is really, really good. Just like that, I thought, that's what I want to do. And that's got me hooked on the drumming. And obviously, at 8 years old, like my parents, like my dad now plays, well, my dad's passed away, but he taught himself to play keyboards. But there was never any musical parents, so to speak. Nobody played or sang within the family environment. So I just literally, like everybody, just tapped, used my hands, anything that came on the TV, I just tuned into the drumming, tried to figure out how did they do it, how did this work. And I did that right up until, well, we moved back from Enniskillen to Derry when I was about 11 or 12 years old. And then I became very friendly with John. We went to school together and we formed a band and then managed to get a drum kit. Um, but didn't know that the bass drum, you had to play the bass drum with your foot. Didn't realize that. Eventually found out that you had to do that. And we literally rehearsed morning, noon, and night. I mean, we really, now, everyone's self-taught. We had no tutors. Even though I went to a drum tutor, I really don't know my rudiments, which is dreadful. I wish I did. I don't know. I can't do daddy mammy rolls. I can't do paradiddles. And I really try to do it, and I just can't do it for whatever reason. So we would listen to songs and we'd try and copy the songs that we heard on the TV or radio. And we literally studied it morning, noon, and night, literally for years until we felt that we were at some level of ability. And then we had the, I suppose, the courage or maybe the nerves to play live. And obviously, because John and I, we more or less formed a band. We had, and Fergal Sharkey, who's my cousin. Fergal was in my class at school, and we needed a singer, and Fergal was a really, really good singer. There's a local singing competition back in Derry called the Fesh, and he was winning competitions right, left, and centre. I mean, it's like he was really, really good singer. And I said to Fergal, would you like to join the band? Fergal joined the band, me and John, and then we had Damien, who's John's brother. He came in, and then because Michael Bradley, the bass player, he was in my school as well. Then Michael joined the band, and that was basically the start of the Undertones. But we listened to, you know, our induction wasn't to look towards Led Zeppelin or Yes or Deep Purple. We went down the kind of the songs that we thought we could learn and learn them quickly and get them up to some kind of level that would be proficient. I mean, you can imagine if you're learning to play drums, trying to emulate like Ian Pace or John Bonham, you know, it's going to be very, very difficult.
It can take a while.
And that's basically, yeah, they basically went down the rhythm and blues route, like early Rolling Stones, early Beatles, and try to copy what they did.
Yeah, what kind of tunes
then obviously
were you
it's
playing?
become more. Sorry.
Well, I was wondering about that. What kind of songs? Do you remember what songs you would cover and learn in those days? A few examples.
I think we did Route 66. I think we did Get Back. I think we tried Jumping Jack Flash, Little Red Rooster. You know, God. I think that's probably some of them. But then along came, you know, Dr. Feelgood. I think the drummer there is the big figure is a guy called John Martin. And I think he's a great drummer. So we actually learned every track on the Rolling Stones live LP, Get Your Yayas Out. We literally learned every song because you could hear, well, for me, I'm a huge fan of God rest Charlie Watts. I'm a huge fan of Charlie Watts, but you could hear the drumming and it was workable. You could work it out. But the thing is, even though you're trying to copy Charlie Watts, it doesn't sound like Charlie Watts. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
You know, you could read a book and I could read a book. The way you read it and the way I read it is going to be totally different, but we're reading exactly the same thing. It's the same too with drumming. Drummers bring their own kind of personality, their own stamp on the music. But that's really how we started out. And then we learned Down by the Jetty by Dr. Feelgood. And then a friend of ours, he had a really, really good record collection, and he introduced us to an LP called Nuggets, which was like American psychedelic garage bands of the 60s. And that was like a light bulb. You know, I thought, man, this is just so good. So again, we virtually learned every song on the LP. And then we discovered New York Dolls, MC5, like in the Stooges, and then all the glam rock, which I absolutely love. I love all the glam rock stuff, you know, Mud, Slade, Sweet, Glitter Band, you know, Roxy Music, David Bowie. Most of these singles as well that they were doing, they were easy enough to try and copy in reference to drumming. They were relatively easy to copy, and they had enough interest in it to make you really want to work at it to get it right.
Yeah,
and that's basically what we did.
All great songs with just drum parts that just work perfect for the music.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like Dave Mount, he was a drummer in Mud. Now, I don't know if he came up with a beat or it was, I think it was Mickey Most might have produced it. I could be wrong on that. But I mean, they're great drum patterns, like Tucker and Baller and Blitz, Sweet. I mean, that's great. Cozy Powell, Dance with the Devil. But no one seems to do it anymore. They just seem to be, it sounds like boom, boom, it's just really driving, which there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticizing it, but it seems to have lost this kind of personal touch. And interestingly enough, you met him as well. Once there a guy called Neil Wilkinson. We were chatting about drummers, particularly about Kenny Clare and Ronnie Stevenson. When those guys went in to do sessions, they would have the manuscript, the script of what had to be played, but they could interpret it and they could put their feel to it, and they weren't prevented from doing that. They could do it, and you could go, that sounds like Kenny Clare, that sounds like Bobby Graham or whatever. But nowadays, that's stopped. You're told, no, I wanted to go like this, and it has to be like this, which is maybe not a good thing.
Yeah, it's a balance. It can, if one wants to work as a drummer in that context, doing sessions, that ability to do what's asked is why those drummers do work. And I do hear you though. The ability for and the opportunity for musicians to be fully expressive. Sometimes that opportunity is not available. But again, as you say, it is great to hear those moments and those records where the players get to express their own voice.
Yeah,
and I remember when you were rehearsing with the Undertones. I mean, that's a great work ethic, which is testament to why I think you guys sound so together, because you've just like the Beatles. Who just played and played and played. And when you guys were doing this, you used to rehearse. Was it and sometimes in a garden shed?
Yeah, it was actually Michael's sister, Josephine, who sadly passed away. She was friendly with a guy called Paddy Sims, and they had a shed at the back of their house. So whenever we had finished school, we were teenagers, we would go to Mrs. Paddy Sims's mother's house. We would go into Mrs. Sims' house to rehearse. So Mr. Sims, he would be in the front room. It's just a terraced house. So he'd be having his tea. We'd have to walk through the kitchen, say, "How you doing, Mr. Sims?" Go out to the yard and up into the shed to rehearse. Now he must have heard the noise, and nobody objected. They were unbelievably good to us. They never told us off or whatever. And the only time we couldn't practice is the Sims had a dog. He called the dog Sparky, and Sparky had pups, but Sparky had the pups in my bass drum, so we couldn't drum until Sparky had taken her pups out of my bass drum, and that's the only time we didn't rehearse. But you got the resilience of people, parents or friends, to allow us to do that. I mean, without them, we probably would have rehearsed somewhere, but we were very, very fortunate that people let us do that, and they never complained. They never told, and it was free. We never paid electricity, or never even thought about paying for electricity. And we had the run of the practice shed, morning and a night. But we literally, once we finished school, we were in there from we get our homework out of the way, maybe in there from about 5 o'clock, and probably stay there to about 9. And then during the summer, it was like in the morning, rehearse, take a break, back in again in the evening, rehearse, get your dinner, your tea, and back in again at night. And that was it, because we wanted to learn these songs. Everybody instinctively had the same vibe. We just wanted to learn these songs, and we wanted to make them sound as good as we could. Plus, everyone got on exceptionally well. We were all pals. We got on very well. It's only as things develop, and yourself, once it's a business, that can have an influence on friendships. And how do you deal with that, and how does that work out? That's basically how we got going.
Yeah. And I find it really refreshing as well, like in recent shows, that dynamic between you off the stage is very much present. It's a very much a family feeling that's generally really pleasant to be around as well. And it's
well,
great
it's
to
the
see
same.
that.
It's the same with you as well. I know it's like cues from the Stranglers, but you all still have that same vibe. You know, there's no feeling of no resentment. Everybody's there to do their job and you just get on with it. And you know that doing those tours with yourself and Hugh, they've been terrific. I mean, they've been fair. You know, a wee bit nervy at the start because we had to get to know everybody, but once you get to know, because we've gone out together once, and everybody is really really nice. I mean, they generally are, and they're no one's competing with anybody. You know, we're not trying to say you're better than us or we're better than you. It's we're doing our thing and we enjoy doing it. Well, hopefully we enjoy doing it. And I still make mistakes. John makes mistakes. Mickey makes mistakes. But the thing is, because we're very comfortable with each other, whenever we come after, when a show is finished, we would have a quick kind of summary of how the show went. And they would say, look, you played really, you're too fast, or you did this wrong. And we're all quite comfortable with that because we all know we don't want to let each other down. We want to support each other. So we never seen it as a criticism. It's very positive. And we did a show, was it Bearded Theory? Now, I'm going to blow my own trumpet in this one. Normally I don't, but we did a show last weekend, Bearded Theory. And it's one of the very, very few times that I could say we were absolutely brilliant. We were really, really good to a point where I felt like stopping drumming. I just wanted to stop drumming and go, God, these guys are really, really good. You just really want to, I don't know if you ever get that vibe when you're playing. You kind of go, jeez, this band is so good. We had a terrific sound. The audience was terrific. And there was kind of a wee bit of magic kind of happened on stage. And we really nailed it. And when we're doing a show, I keep thinking, what must it be like if the Rolling Stones was playing here? What would I be like a Charlie Watts? Or I know it's silly, but I'd be like a Ringo Starr. And I try to think, would they get the same kind of vibe when they're playing with their groups that I get playing with the Undertones? And we all get that. And after the show, we all normally we don't congratulate each other. Normally it's, well, John, look, you came in too fast or you came in wrong here. But after the show, everybody was congratulating everybody, even Mickey. Now, Mickey, he's a guy he's a big schoolmaster. He would say, no. But even Mickey made a comment about how good it was. And that's one of the, now, you could count the amount of times that I would have ever said it. And I think that's probably maybe the twice I said it. Maybe the other time was we played in, was it Los Angeles? Maybe, because it's gone back years. But it was a really, really late show. Maybe we went on stage about 2:00 in the morning. But it was a really, really good show. It's a terrific show. And it's great that you can get that. And it kind of gives you a whole burst. It kind of rejuvenates your faith in what you're doing because you can get a wee bit stale doing the same thing day in, day out. But the audience loved it. And that makes the thing all worth it. And we all get on. And it's terrific.
Yeah, it's wonderful that
I count my
when it all comes
for
together.
A guy who's now in his bus pass. When it all comes together, yes, it's terrific.
Yeah, those moments.
Even when it falls apart, like I mean, when the show I did before, like the mic, the fitting for the microphone for my floor tom came off, and that was a wee bit disruptive. But you just move on. It's one of those things.
Yeah, taking it in stride, and again, just having
taking it in your stride. Yeah,
and having that openness.
They are
just
more important things in life than a microphone coming off, falling off a bass or floor tom. It's not the end of the world, and it's easily recoverable. Nobody got injured. Nobody got hurt.
Yeah, it's not a life or death situation for sure.
No, not. But the thing is, that's the thing. If you're doing music, I know it sounds really corny and a bit naive, but you really have to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, don't do it. Don't. You have to, or a sense of achievement. If you can get that kind of sense, God, you're really doing very well. No matter what it is, if it's in the riding a bicycle, swimming, playing a guitar, playing a football, doing your homework, studying physics, it doesn't really matter. If you get a buzz out of it, that's great.
Yeah, enjoyment that that comes is a beautiful thing. It's what I
Yeah,
do, what I
of course.
do, because if it's not fun,
Yeah,
I wouldn't do it. And the more
yeah,
we do it, the better we get at it, the more we enjoy it too.
yeah. Well, the only way I could describe that moment that we had last week is, when you absolutely love somebody, there's absolutely no question about it, and it makes you feel great. It's the same kind of feeling that I got playing with a band. I thought, God, this is really, really good. And it was just terrific feeling.
Yeah, and I can imagine, because like a lot of the time when we've done shows together, it's
Yeah,
it's that it there's that thing that I've found when I've been playing. It's like, I really wish I could hear how I actually sound with the band on a good night. That's why,
yeah,
I think,
yeah,
YouTube videos can be quite cool, because you get a chance to hear how it sounded,
yeah,
and have a document of that. But one thing I've noticed every night that I've watched you guys play anytime is just how enjoyable it is to see you guys.
yeah,
Like, the music it lets people in the audience are just having such a good time, and we can see that you guys
yeah,
are enjoying it as well, and that just adds to the whole experience. And
yeah,
when it comes together, it's a
absolutely.
wonderful thing. And with you, I
Yeah,
mean,
it is.
there was certainly a big moment that things came together for you guys. Like, because after I think, was it the Casbah club you used to play at
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
while, and then that led
Casbah, yeah.
to it was the big break with John Peel and Teenage Kicks.
Yeah, well, as I was saying earlier, whenever we rehearsed in some shed, and again, myself and John, we managed to get a few shows in the Casbah. The Casbah was a place you should avoid, but it was never like it. It had a very bad reputation, uncalled for, by the way. And you can imagine all the political situation in Northern Ireland, where the Casbah, it didn't care who you were, what you were. It was very neutral. Protestants and Catholics went there. And I'm not saying that the Undertones were a united force on that. It's just the way it was. So we would do this. We ended up, we got a residency. I think we got a Thursday night and a Friday night. I think, and I could be wrong on that. But basically, we got 2 nights a week in the Casbah. So we would do our set, the covers, and then the next week we'd try and do one of our own songs, because we wanted to write our own material. And anyway, that led to John writing Teenage Kicks. We recorded Teenage Kicks. It was Terry Hooley at Good Vibrations, brought us down to Belfast. Went in and did it really quickly. Now, the guitars that we used, or the guitars that Damien and John used, they were really cheap guitars. I mean, they were well-worth guitars. Like really £30 guitars. Went in, did the thing, and that was it. But John Peel had his radio show running it. Oh, it's been running for years, and we were huge fans of John Peel. Anyway, when the EP was finished, I had previously phoned John Peel, because you could. This is how ridiculous it was back then. It was about 1977, or probably 1978. You could pick up the phone, and I said, "Hello, could I speak to John Peel?" And the show would be going out live, and I would say, "Could I speak to John Peel?" And you're put through straight away. Probably because no one really kind of rated John Peel at the time. He was kind of saying, "Well, he's kind of a wee bit out there." And anyway, I initially made contact with John Peel and asked John Peel, could he play records for our friends, records that we liked, and which he really did. He did do that, and we kind of struck up a kind of a connection, albeit very loose and haphazard. Anyway, when the Teenage Kicks EP came out, I sent it to him, and he got the EP, and he said, "Look, I'm going to play that record. I think that might have been a Monday night or whatever, and it'll be on the show." So all the band and all our pals, we were in the O'Neill's front room. Just John and Damien, who play in the band, their parents' front room. On came Teenage Kicks. And oh yes, we've got a record played up by John Peel, and it's on the. It's kind of a wee bit unbelievable. But then he played it again the second time, and the room, everyone really quiet. I was like, what? I've never heard a record played back to back ever since on the radio. So it was like he just instantly fell in love with the record. And then consequently, we got a record deal through Sarah Records. But it wasn't until, this is going back maybe about 4 years, we went to Peel Acres, because John Peel would do his show from his home. I think it might have been Stowmarket and around that area. Anyway, John Peel's wife, Sheila, she invited us back to her house and she made us tea and whatever. But I didn't realise that John O'Neill had given the handwritten lyrics of Teenage Kicks to John Peel. I didn't know that. And it's only gone back 4 years when we were in Peel Acres that the penny dropped. I realised how profound that record had on John Peel. He just instantly loved it. And his background was totally different to ours. He was middle class, had a privileged background compared to us. We're working class. Probably didn't have all the advantages that John Peel had. I'm not saying one's better or worse than the other. It's just we're kind of two ends of kind of the social scene. And of all the records in the world that John Peel played and loved, he had Teenage Kicks. And he actually put Teenage Kicks, the lyrics of Teenage Kicks on his headstone in the grave in Stowmarket. And it's very hard. Actually, we went to see the grave and it was overgrown. It was kind of difficult to find. But what I was saying earlier about how music can have an effect on you, when I was saying earlier about whenever we're playing live, how that the band performer had an effect on me. In the similar way, Teenage Kicks had that effect on John Peel.
Yeah, and I think, yeah.
And I say, I knew he liked it, and he was a very, very nice man. I mean, whenever John Peel came over to do the documentary in Derry, this was, when the band had broken up and it reformed. And God, it was years and years and years since we last spoke to John Peel. Anyway, John came over to Derry, and I was saying to the guys in the band, what are we going to talk about? I mean, we don't know John Peel, really. I mean, but Windsor, he was, you think you knew him all your life. He talked non-stop the full weekend, and he was really, really very cooperative, very, very nice man. And when he was in Derry, he got, like, because we were getting filmed, we were walking through the streets in Derry, and people were coming up and saying, all right, John, how you doing? How's it going? And everyone was really, really nice to him. And it was a lovely, comfortable, very heartfelt reception that I got in Derry. And then we took a break from filming, and we just went on the local pub to get something to eat. But people recognised John Peel, and they sent down like pints of Guinness. Says, John, there's a pint of Guinness, and there's a big circular table, and the table was full of pints of Guinness for John Peel. But there was no intrusion towards John Peel. Everyone was quite polite and quite friendly. And I'd like to think that I had a really good weekend in Derry, because a few years later, unfortunately, passed away.
Yeah,
but I have not but great memories of John Peel.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't, there's three people. There's Bernie McEnany, who knew Terry Hooley. Bernie McEnany was a friend of ours in Derry. He introduced us to Terry Hooley. Terry Hooley recorded the record, and then we gave it to John Peel. And without those three guys, I wouldn't be here talking to you. Yeah, and it's as simple as that. And I count my blessings, and I don't take it for granted at all. I don't. Sorry, Walter, yeah.
I don't think John Peel took it for granted either. You know, that record really had a profound. When he heard that, something lit up inside him. I think I remember just seeing that he apparently gave the record 28 stars out of 5 or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was lovely. And then only recently there, Sheila Ravenscroft, John Ravenscroft, John Peel's wife, she's me phoned. This was only maybe about a few weeks ago to ask, could we play at the John Peel Centre this October, because that is the anniversary of when 45 years anniversary when Teenage Kicks was released. But I think the day that it was released, we're doing a show in Manchester, but we are going to do the show for the John Peel Centre for Sheila Peel, Sheila Ravenscroft. And she's a very, very nice lady, very, very down to earth, very grounded.
Lovely. That sounds awesome. And and perfect. And after Teenage Kicks, then it was your albums. And before this interview, your conversation chat, you know, I was listening to you on record, and just such incredible songs, such great playing. The arrangements are fantastic. The sound on it is brilliant. Now, the one thing that jumped out immediately, so first track off of your first record, the Family Entertainment, the drum sound on that, I love that. The floor tom sound on that kit as one part of it was great. What were you using for that?
Well, it probably was a Premier drum kit that I had, a Premier Elite, which I don't have, unfortunately. I don't have, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to collect Premier drum kits that I wish I had back in the day, but I didn't. But I'm trying to get them now. But it was very daunting for us because we were never. For us, it happened very, very quickly. Like 1 week we were playing in a local pub. The next week we're on top of the pops, and the week I'm exaggerating, but to kind of get the what I'm trying, the gist of what I'm trying to say. Yeah. The next week we're in the studio, and nothing prepares you for it because engineers are putting mics, and they assume that you know what you're doing. And I'm going, I really don't know. We had to get the guy from Elvis Stellar on the Attractions. Well, who's the drummer there? I forget his name.
Long time drummer of Elvis Costello. Yeah, great.
Pete Thomas, is it?
That rings a bell.
Pete Thomas, yeah. He came down. He tuned my drum kit because I didn't know what to do. I really did, and I felt really overwhelmed. And personally, I don't like the sound on the first LP at all, even though it's the one it's in your top 100 albums of all time. I don't particularly like it. I would have preferred that glam rock sound because that's what I liked. But the drum sound is kind of suppressed a wee bit, and I really like. That's probably going to contradict what I said earlier. I kind of like drums that sound live-ish as opposed to deadened. Like even though Ringo Starr deadened his drums, it still sounds great and it suits the Beatles. But I don't think the sound that we got on the LPs really reflected what we were like live. We're tougher and harder live, and that was kind of that it was kind of suppressed in a way, I thought.
That studio sound, it's not the same as the live representation of the band, which in a way for fans can give them that extra dimension of experience. You've got the classic record experience and then the more energetic one live. And about that time, I saw that you supported the Clash on a few dates. That seems a very cool experience. What was that like?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, Joe Strummer was so good to us. I mean, he really was. Not that I hung out with these guys, by the way, but Joe Strummer was genuinely very nice, and extremely supportive towards us. I really, really liked Joe Strummer. We actually tried to get the Clash to play in Derry. I think it was the Clash and the Damned. We were trying to get that arranged, but it didn't work out because the Clash at the time were supporting the Hitch Block, which was a camp basically for alleged IRA members or whatever. And they supported the injusticeness of that particular camp, the Hitch Block. But Joe Strummer got a threat saying that if he came to Northern Ireland, there would be a death threat. And unfortunately, we couldn't do it. But then we ended up doing the tour with Joe Strummer and the States, which is great. I mean, I watched them every night. I thought, God almighty, there's Top of Heaven's amazing.
Yeah. Have you seen any of his
big band? Even though I watched it, I think he has a red drum kit and he has a white suit, and then he has a white drum kit and a red suit. It kind of alternates between the two. But I would have thought big bands would be getting more symbols, they'd be more animated, because you ever see these guys, they're really getting stuck on it, and you can see they're really driving it. I thought he was a wee bit timid on it. I'd like to see him do more. I'm not knocking him, I'm not in the same league as Topper Hedden, but for big band drummers, that's what I love about them. They can just do all these things just like that. Like Kenny Clare, we were having a conversation with Kenny Clare, Ronnie Stevenson, Ronnie Farrell. These are the British guys. They're great. They watch. The sounds great. And there's a really good clip I posted there on Facebook, and it's Kenny Clare. He's using he's using a Premier kit. Can't mind. But obviously, this must be 19. maybe 1970s, early 80s, maybe. Could be wrong. Anyway, on the snare drum, you can see he's got tissue paper and masking tape, and you can see the tissue paper is worn. Now, you have to be very quick to watch it now, but you can see the tissue paper flying up. Back and then, they got on with it, and there was none of this, has to be this, has to be the other. But they're just so good. I just think those guys are great. And I think if you try to emulate those guys, you have to think differently about it. I think you have to approach it in a different way.
Yeah, it's like a musical language, just like we learn to speak free flowingly. We do that in conversation with words here, but on the instrument, it's like the language you have to learn to then develop the ability to play what comes in your head, which is a wonderful thing that sometimes that's what the situation involves you doing, and sometimes it's more appropriate to dial it back though. But that name, Kenny Clare, before we started talking, I'd never heard of Kenny Clare as a drummer, and looking into him, I was amazed. The one video clip that really did it was a video of him playing with Tony Bennett at the Royal Festival Hall 74, I think. I'd never seen such, in that context, he was just so alive and playing with so much passion. But and the control and the dynamic, such an incredible musician. So I'll put a link to that clip in the notes here. But definitely one to check out. What an incredible musician.
Yeah. Well, even though I'm not in that league, I could. Those are the kind of guys, because those are the kind of guys you would have seen on TV. I mean, TV back then, you're just exposed to the Royal Variety Show, or very mainstream. There was never, apart from No Great Whistle Test and maybe Top of the Pops, but for anything live, there was no kind of live things. But when you seen these guys on TV, they were doing it for real. It wasn't like a pre-record. They were doing it. I thought, God, even back, I think, God, that sounds really, really good. And you kind of fool yourself into thinking, maybe I could do that and give it a try. And you try and do the wee triplets on the right cymbal. You try and do the odd flashy thing if you can. But as you said earlier, it's effortless. It's instinctive to these guys. They just do it. And it's just so great to watch. So even though I would be looking to drummers who I could try and copy and at least make an effort at it, I still could see how good the likes of Kenny Clare and the Buddy Riches and the Ronnie Farrells and the Ronnie Stevensons, I could still appreciate how good they were. And it does give you a huge lift to say, well, look, okay, I may not be in that league, but at least I'm trying to do it, or try and create a rhythm, or backbone, or backbeat for a band, and deliver that.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about the music or the arts or whatever it is. It's like when you see someone at the top of their game, even if it's not in the same field as you do, there's something inspiring to the human spirit, or however you want to say it, about, wow, that's what is possible. And you mentioned the Old Grey Whistle Test. Before this, there was a really cool video that, like, in a similar kind of way, that I think it was you were playing the song True Confessions on it. And I think that's a really dreadful. I think it was a very cool, like, example of you doing what you do perfectly for the context, like absolutely nailing playing the song. Because the thing is, some musicians that can do a lot of the flash stuff don't have the ability, or haven't practiced as much dialing it back to playing really simple and what's really right for the song. And can you just speak to about the importance of, like, especially when it comes to playing songs, just about just doing what's right for the song? Because a lot of drummers, especially young drummers, can miss that.
Well, I was. It's because we all kind of like the same style of music together, and it was. Now, I'm not saying it's basic, meaning basic that it's you can dismiss it. It was basic in comparison to other things, and it was manageable. So we all kind of liked the similar style of music, and it was easy enough for us to play. So if we were writing our own material, we would have that, what would be, not the restriction, but there would be there'd be a certain element they would say, no, we don't want you doing this, which any drummer will understand. When you're in a band, they'll try and say, look, can you do this? Can you do that? Da, 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 da. So I kind of knew the parameters that I had to work with on. Keep it very basic, keep it a beat. Basically, that's it. And if they wanted the occasional thing in, fine. And if you kind of stepped out of that realm, you were told, no, don't be doing that. Doesn't suit it. Even though I thought it might have improved it, you were told not to do it. And I didn't mind. I thought it's okay. I just sat there and they said, give me 1, 2, 3, 4. I just did 1, 2, 3, 4. I just got on with it. I never, but it's only whenever, obviously, yourself, once the more you play, the better you get, and you become more comfortable how to get sounds out of your drums. And you're more confident to try different things. It's only when this is 1980, this is 78, we formed, in 1983, we broke up. But when you're getting towards 83, you're more comfortable with the studio, you know how things work better. But unfortunately, the band broke up. And it was a pity. I wish we could have reconvened, because I think if we had reconvened, we could have elaborated more. We could have been allowed to experiment a wee bit more and take the shackles off and go, right, well, Billy, go and do and see what you can come up with. But within the Undertones, now we did the same to everyone else, by the way. It just wasn't me. If Damon, I thought Damon was playing like a mad guitar lead, saying, "No, Damon, I don't like that. That's too rocky. Don't be doing that." Or if Mickey was doing something. But if we're messing about, say we're doing a particular song. Like I know we used to do. Oh God, what do you call the song? God, I forget the song now. It's Joe Morello. It's a really
Take Five.
It's a really famous song.
Take Five.
Joe Morello.
Is it?
Take Five, yeah. Like we used to muck about doing Take Five, and we could actually make it really sound pretty good. So this is whenever we're rehearsing, so we could, to some extent, copy stuff like the jazzy thing or the bluesy thing. But when it came to Undertones, it was very strict. There were certain things you could and couldn't do, and that kind of forms your style and the way we approach things. And I never found it in my place to say, well, we should be this, or should be the other. I just kind of went with the flow. Yeah. I just said, well, if they're happy with the drumming, that's okay.
Yeah, and I think it shows a lot of musical maturity, and one, playing and working well with the others in the unit. There was that, and always doing always doing what's right for the context. And it's interesting that you said that you would have wanted to expand your musical output and diversity a bit more. Yeah. And something that really surprised me, because I'm mostly familiar with the songs that you've played live on the shows that we've done. And when I was listening to your records, the third and fourth record, I think, was Positive Touch, Sin of Pride. I was amazed. It sounded like a completely different band to me, like with all these different instrumental textures. And what caused that wanting to move in that direction? Were you going punk against punk?
Not really. I mean, as I said earlier, you kind of become more comfortable, and because we're touring constantly, your limbs become better. You're more relaxed, and you're more familiar with the studio environment. You know that having a different snare drum is going to sound slightly different. If you tune your drums slightly different, they're going to sound different, obviously. And I think too, a different producer definitely can form the sound of a band. And I kind of liked. Well, there's a guy I really like working with. It was a guy called Hugh Jones. I think he did stuff with Teardrop Explodes, and now Mike Hedges as well. Did Mike Hedges do the Sin of Pride? I think he did. And I like working. The guys weren't maybe too keen with Mike Hedges, but I liked them. I felt very comfortable working with them, and there was a wee bit more for expression. But that was there. I might have musically. I think for us it might have been a wee bit of a dip for us, because we're kind of getting off, the core element of what we're about. We're kind of more down the Velvet Undergroundy, MC5, New York Dollsy side, whereas we're kind of going more down more like a polish thing. I don't think it was really working for us. And we're trying to copy because the music scene had changed as well. There's a new romantic scene, uh, and we didn't really fit into that. And I think we should have just taken a break, reconvened, and gone back in and kind of redevelop. Or you know yourself, once if you're doing anything, you think at the time, oh, it's pretty good, and then you do it, and you go, well, maybe it wasn't as good as I had imagined, and then you tweak it a bit, and it becomes better. It's an evolving process being with a band, and I like the idea of change, but having a change, but keeping the thread or the core element of what you're about, that has to remain.
To continue watching the rest of this Groove Guru podcast episode for free, visit windsordrums.com/podcast or click the link in the description below.